Leo had stayed after school countless times before, usually for detention, sometimes for homework. But this time was different. He wasn't in trouble, nor was he studying. He simply needed to grab a book he'd left in his locker. The corridors of St. Augustine High stretched endlessly under the fading glow of fluorescent lights. Classes had ended hours ago, yet when Leo entered the building, he was sure he'd heard voices. A burst of laughter, the slam of a locker, hurried footsteps echoing in the distance. But when he turned the corner, the hallway was empty. Uneasy, he walked faster, his sneakers squeaking on the waxed floors. The air felt strangely heavy, as though the building itself were holding its breath. He tried to shake it off. Schools always seemed creepier when empty, right? Still, the silence pressed down on him, thick and unnatural. Leo reached his locker and fiddled with the combination. The dial spun smoothly, but the familiar click never came. He tried again. Nothing. Frowning, he leaned his head against the metal door. That's when he heard it, the faint scrape of shoes on linoleum, coming from behind him. He spun around. The hallway stretched empty in both directions, doors closed, lights buzzing faintly. "Hello?" His voice cracked, swallowed almost instantly by the silence. No answer. He turned back to the locker, now unlocked. His stomach lurched. He hadn't finished the combination. Slowly, he opened it. His math book sat inside, exactly where he'd left it. But beneath it was something else. A folded piece of paper, yellowed and fragile. Leo unfolded it with trembling fingers. In jagged handwriting it read, "Don't stay after." The paper slipped from his hands as every hair on his neck rose. A noise echoed again, this time unmistakable, a door creaking open down the hall. Clutching his book, he stepped carefully toward the sound. The classroom doors were all shut tight, except one at the very end of the hallway. Its door was cracked open, darkness spilling out from inside. "Hello, Mr. Harris? Is someone there?" he called, though he doubted his teacher was still around. He approached, each step heavier than the last. The moment he reached the door, it slammed shut with a thunderous bang. He staggered back, heart hammering. Then the lights overhead flickered violently, plunging the hall into darkness before buzzing back on. And the hallway had changed. Lockers were dented and rusted. The floor tiles were cracked. The bulletin boards hung in tatters, their papers yellow and curling. It was as though decades had passed in a blink. "No, no, this isn't real," Leo whispered. At the far end of the hall, shadows began to gather. Tall, thin figures, their outlines barely human. They stood motionless, watching him. He couldn't see faces, only hollow darkness where their eyes should be. Panic surged through him. He bolted down the opposite direction, sprinting past rows of decayed lockers, past doors that now rattled violently as though something inside was trying to get out. The air grew colder, each breath like ice in his lungs. He rounded the corner and found himself in front of the main entrance. Relief surged. He could leave. He could get out. But when he shoved the doors, they didn't budge. They were chained shut, rusted links binding them tight. Behind him, footsteps multiplied. Not just one set, dozens. Fast, relentless, growing louder. "Let me out!" he screamed, slamming his fists against the glass. But outside was worse. Instead of the familiar courtyard and parking lot, the windows showed nothing but blackness, like the school floated in an endless void. The footsteps stopped. He turned slowly. The hallway was filled. Dozens of shadowy figures stretched down the corridor, silent, unmoving. At the front stood one taller than the rest, its head cocked unnaturally to the side. Then, in a voice like grinding metal, it whispered, "You stayed after." The lights went out. When they flickered back, Leo was gone. The next morning, his math book was found lying open at his locker. The paper was gone, the hallways normal again. Teachers shook their heads, assuming Leo had skipped town or run away. But sometimes, late at night, The janitor swore he could hear footsteps echoing in the empty school. Too many footsteps for a single person. And if you listened closely enough, just before the lights flickered, you could hear a whisper, "Don't stay after."